Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by Rick Favreau and Austin Underground. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined each and every day by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. We are 16 days away from kickoff. That's crazy to think about. Tell us who your favorite number 16 is. Tell us where you're checking in from, what you're drinking this morning, and get your questions in. We'll get to all those here in a little bit. But first, let's go through some memorable 16s. And I think you got to start here.
I got to say this. That's the Cotton Bowl where Texas came and beat Notre Dame for the national championship, or to solidify national championship, 1969 team. I guess that was actually taken on January 1st, 1970. But I want to say this about this photo. Is this the most iconic photo of the 20th century for Texas football? 21st century would be Vince Young among all the confetti, I think.
Yeah.
But for the 20th century, is this the most recognized Texas photo? That's obviously James Street. Blake, you can go ahead and pitch who we have on as a special guest for today, because I think it's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. So in about 15 minutes, we'll be joined by Huston Street, Texas baseball legend and the son of James Street. So we go from James to probably one of the more recognizable 16s nowadays, guys. I think everybody probably knows who that is. Arch Manning there, of course. But there's also
number one in 16 jersey sales.
Yeah, for sure. But I was looking this morning. There's a lot of Texas, big Texas names that wear 16. There we go. Tied in David Thomas, and then you can go over. Right there. We got that one. Jermichael Finley. That is correct. And then last but not least, he didn't graduate wearing this number, but he started off with Kenny Vaccaro. He started at 16 before, I think, going to 4 when it was all said and done. And there's a bunch of other ones I could have easily picked as well. 16 was a very popular number.
I got to say, I think Kenny started at 16 because our guest yesterday had number 4 his freshman year. That was Aaron Williams. Yeah. That's why Kenny started at 16. How odd is that to have that kind of twist of fate? Good stuff there. Tell us what you're drinking too. I've got some coffee ready to go. A little French vanilla this morning. Feeling a little crazy with my life as it is, but trying to get a little caffeine injected into my veins. Jerry, where are you at this morning? I know you're in the car. You got to give people an update about what high school you're at, because that looks like a teacher's parking lot that you're in right now.
This is crazy. So one of my good buds, Jason Watts, we grew up down the street from each other. He's at DFW Airport right now. I guess he's connecting flight. I'm at Euless Trinity High School. See Toa Katoa, the 2026 monster offensive guard prospect. Aaron Lineweaver, the head coach here. Obviously, his father, Steve Lineweaver. Aaron Lineweaver graduated from South Lake Carroll in 1992, trying to restore kind of the Euless Trinity program. This guy here is one of the very best offensive linemen in the country in 2026. His ankle flexion, knee bend, hip flexibility at 6'5", 355, 360 is off the charts. I mean, he is Bobby, some people have this guy ranked as a 3-star, and I'm questioning careers. This guy is a hell of a talent. I mean, Texas would accept his commitment right now. So would Oklahoma. I mean, right now. This guy is talking to Coach Lineweaver a few minutes ago, and I do have to get out of here early to get back to practice about 8:45-ish. Talking to Coach Lineweaver a few minutes ago, he said, better kid, first guy here, last guy to leave type of worker. He once weighed 390. He's dipped down about 25 pounds. He's working on his weight, headed in the right direction there. But just his natural, look at his ability to be flat back. Look at his body quickness and his reactive quickness at 370 pounds. That's not normal.
Jerry, I've got to be honest. When he hits people with his punch, they go backwards.
Yes.
You don't see that very often. That's how naturally strong. Oh my goodness.
I know.
There's a my dad would say you could drive a Mack truck through that hole.
I mean, and keep in mind, people that are watching him for the first time, this is sophomore video. What's he going to look like this year and next year? He's the best interior. He's one of the best interior offensive line prospects in the country in the 2026 class. The rankings will catch up when people pull their head out of the sand, and he's tremendously talented.
Hey, Jerry, speaking of pulling your head out of the sand, Longhorns offered, and you kind of predicted this, they would go to the state of Georgia maybe and be looking for some defensive linemen. Yesterday evening, Texas offered 2 defensive linemen from the state of Georgia. Give folks the latest.
Yeah, so I got to pull up the name because I will butcher the name if I don't. And we've been talking about this, and I don't think the Texas offers are over, by the way, in the Southeast. You're going to see more of that. So the first guy offers was Joseph Mbaktu, 6'5", 285 pounds at Grayson in same high school as Nick Brooks moved to, by the way. He'll announce August 23rd. But Mbaktu, this is his first year playing football. So a little bit like the J.J. Hahn, the kid out of Rancho Santa Margarita via Germany. Mbaktu's from Cameroon, but he's lived in the States a long time, but played soccer and basketball. This will be his first year playing competitive football. But look, he was so good. He has about 20 offers. He impressed so much in the spring. Committed to Florida. They were the first big school to really offer him. Texas offered and Auburn offered within the last 2 days. Auburn is a school to watch with him, I think. Florida's got a fight on their hands, I think, to keep him, but not saying they can't. I'm sure after they beat Miami A&M and everybody else on their schedule, they'll keep him. But look, Auburn is a school to watch. There's some pretty strong connections in the Auburn recruiting department that have a lot of ties to Grayson. So that's a school to potentially watch. Texas offered him last night. Then the second offer was Caleb Bell out of Milton, north of Atlanta, one of the more talented schools in Atlanta, and that's saying something in Atlanta area. Caleb Bell, 6'3", 275, 280. He's committed to Arkansas. His father, Kendrell Bell, played linebacker at Georgia, was NFL second-round pick, was the NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year and Pro Bowler. So comes from a football family there. Caleb Bell offered by Texas. He's currently committed to Arkansas. This is what we've been hinting at. Look, because Kenny Baker got in late, you didn't have time in the spring to go around and evaluate all these guys. So what's happening is some of this senior practice video on Huddle is being posted. Where it's behind the scenes, the college staffs can go take a look at some of this stuff. Scrimmages have started. Games have actually started in the state of Georgia. Scrimmages start in Texas tonight. Euless Trinity actually scrimmages North Crowley tonight. But Caleb Bell, Joseph Mbaktu, those are the first 2 2025 DL offers Kenny Baker's made in the state of Georgia this season. Senior season stuff. I'm still looking at Georgia, looking at Florida. I don't think these will be the last 2 offers, but Kenny Baker going back, evaluating a lot of these guys, seeing what some of them look like as seniors, and doing homework on some of the guys that he didn't have time to go see. And you're going to start to see, I think, Texas continue to get aggressive with some of these D-line prospects that they think maybe are really good players that they didn't have a chance to dive into early on.
Hey, Jerry, Texas also offered Adam Guthrie, big offensive lineman out of Ohio, yesterday. He says not only that, he's a 2026, but a lot of these 2026, we talked about it, Brady Edmonds yesterday, the quarterback out of Southern California. He's a 2027 class guy. They're coming in for the Texas-Georgia game. That is setting up to be the big recruiting weekend. Yeah. Texas is trying to get everybody into Austin for. Is that your opinion?
Yeah, they're including somebody who hasn't committed to Texas yet. It's already scheduled to be in for that game that game as well. So unless that recruitment changes. So yeah, that's going to be a huge weekend. I don't think, Colorado State, that game, I mean, there may be some kids there, but maybe Mississippi State season opener or SEC opener, but really Georgia, Florida, those are the games, Kentucky later in the schedule. Those are the games that Texas will really try to bring in a lot of guys. That's also midway through the season. You get into October. That's also when Texas starts pushing for maybe a few guys that are committed elsewhere. Recruitment still in the balance. I got to remember, Xavier Filsaime showed up at the Cotton Bowl with Elijah Barnes, Riley Pettijohn, all those recruits last year when Texas hosted recruits at the Cotton Bowl for the Red River rivalry. Texas offered Xavier Filsaime that day on his way. Blake Gideon called and made the offer when the kid was driving to the Cotton Bowl. So look for October is a very important month for Texas recruiting, not just the guys that are committed, not the young kids that they get in, but also guys that maybe they like these 2 defensive linemen that they just offered. See how many of these guys they can get to campus because these October games become big.
All right, good stuff there. Lots of recruiting information and even more to talk about here in a little bit when it comes to recruiting. But first, Bobby, can you tell folks out there about Austin Underground?
Yeah, absolutely. Since 2004, Rick Vavro and his team at Austin Underground have specialized in difficult underground commercial installations. The team's engineering background gives Rick and his team the ability to perform work other firms often consider too risky. Rick's team offers an end-to-end client experience, including seamless communication, budgeting, staffing, and top-notch trade partners. And most importantly, they produce solid quality work each and every time. That's Austin Underground for difficult commercial underground installations. Also, check out their sister company, Texas Road, for your major road needs, for whether it be a new community development or a large property that you have some work to be done on. Got to get Shipley Ranches involved with them a little bit, maybe. Those long driveways. So.
All right. Well, as we said earlier, Huston Street will be joining us here shortly. But first, guys, practice resumes today. Media availability later after that. What do you think the storylines besides running back are going to be today when it comes to practice?
I was thinking about this, Jerry, and I get y'all's opinion. Jerry's been out to practice like me, and I get the feeling that there were several, and I wrote about it this morning on OnTexasFootball.com. There are several questionable position battles going into this. We talked about them all spring and summer, right? We talked about the wide receiver rotation. We asked whether or not the offensive line would have some issues if they would actually rotate more frequently. We talked about edge, given the addition of Trey Moore and Colin Simmons coming in. We talked about the second corner spot, right? We talked about all of those. And I'd say all but one of them are fairly decided. The one that's not decided at this point, guys, is I think receiver. But they've showed us, Kyle Flood has showed us, and we've heard behind the scenes, he is rotating in the offensive linemen fairly liberally. I mean, he's not overdoing it, but he's getting them in there. We've heard that Trey Moore is in the rotation, and that's how they're going to treat defensive end, with a rotation. So that's done. We've heard that Gavin Holmes is the odds-on favorite, at the very least, to be the starting cornerback opposite Manny Muhammad. So that really leaves the wide receiver role as the one major position that's up in the air. And I tried to describe it and I talked to someone just before we came on air, even after I posted that article this morning. Silas Bolden has a role on this team, period. He's too big of a playmaker, too trusted, and it's a guy that can get people excited with what he does on the field. DeAndre Moore, I think, has solidified a role on this team as well. Okay? He is the one that is the most reliable at this point. He's the guy trying to fill the Jordan Whittington role willingly, by the way, and wants to be that person. Then you have Isaiah Bond, who, has been up and down in camp, but I think based on the scrimmage last Saturday, you just can't keep his speed off the field. It's too serious. And so that leaves the other three: Matthew Golden, Jonte Cook, and Ryan Wingo. Wingo has a clear path to the field. His problem is it's just going to be limited because he can only play one position out of the three. And so now we're waiting to see what exactly happens with with Jonte Cook and Matthew Golden. I think that receiver, you're still going to see a lot of different packages and permutations. But I'm telling you now, I think that there are a couple guys that are starting to poke their head out at receiver, and Bolden, Moore, and Bond are those guys right now. That doesn't mean Jonte Cook and those other guys aren't going to be part of it. They're going to have to find their spot and in their rotation, and we'll see how it goes from there. And there's the fact that, look, Bolden and Moore typically play the same position, but at least Moore knows multiple spots. So maybe Sark has something planned for that. That's the other one. And then obviously punter, Jerry, we didn't mention that one at the outset because it's not a offense or defense position. I am being told that Ian Ratliff and Michael Kern have kind of went ahead of Charlie Ferris at this point.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I don't have much information for you guys. So those are the things that I'm looking for with the second scrimmage coming up on Saturday. By the way, the second scrimmage coming up on Saturday is going to be huge.
We got a couple of questions regarding position battles that I was going to ask real quick. This one from Reese: is tight end decided?
Decided. I mean, I'm not sure. Like starter matters in that. Gunnar Helm, Mari Niblack are going to play the most reps at tight end. Juan Davis has a role at tight end. I think we'll see Jordan Washington get some snaps at tight end. Jeff Banks doesn't call him a rising star and then put a red shirt on him. That's not the way this goes. He'll play some as well. But I think the most interesting thing will be how does Sark use some of those guys at the same time together. Amari Niblack is the most versatile tight end Texas has had under Sark. Look, he can line up outside. You can do a lot of things with Amari Niblack. You're going to be hunting matchups. He has moves like a wide receiver at the tight end position in terms of athleticism. He'll run in the 4.5s at the combine. At least. So, I mean, he has got real speed at the tight end position, big time talent, big time playmaker. How that's going to work out, how that's going to shake out, who's going to start one game versus the next game. It could be who they're playing in the game plan, Bobby. So decided. I'm not sure about a starting spot decided. I'm not sure it even matters at that position because that is going to be a position that Sark will use largely, in my estimation, dependent on matchups, who they're playing, what that matchup looks like for Gunnar Helm versus Amari Niblack, and how much he's going to play those guys together.
The other thing that we have to mention, and I didn't mention it because I mentioned those positions earlier. Those were the positions that we questioned going into the fall camp. Now we have the situation at running back that I did not address. And that's because of injury. So we'll see how that all goes. Hey, guys, I think we got someone special coming in here a little bit. We're going to celebrate his dad right now if we can. Huston Street, welcome to the party, buddy.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Hey, you are a national champ. We showed this. Blake, if you can bring it up, can you bring this picture up of Houston's dad again, if you don't mind? We were debating whether this picture of your dad is like the picture of the 20th century for the University of Texas. You know what I mean? You got James Street, Darrell Royal, Cotton Bowl against Notre Dame. Those are fond memories for a lot of Longhorns, Houston.
Oh, fond memories for me. I grew up with those stories. Those were bedtime stories. Those were, he just relished that time. I think that was the time he always said changed our lives forever. That team, not just his performance, but the team, and being lucky enough to be on that team, being lucky enough to be coached by Coach Royal. The game of the century, Arkansas, that game was the Notre Dame game. Notre Dame came out of basically they hadn't played in a bowl game however many years. So, those are the stories of my life, of my childhood that motivated me, that turned me into somebody who I was going nowhere but UT.
Hey, Houston, before we get started, questions for you. Tell folks what you're doing these days, what you're up to, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I got 3 little boys. That's my life. I was lucky enough to play baseball, but living with them. My boys are 14, 11, and 9, Ripken, Ryder, and Rafe. And right now they're playing football. They started school yesterday. I'm coaching the 9U team. My 11-year-old Ryder is he's on a 12U team. And we got our first heartbreak yesterday. My 9-year-old son found out that he has 2 broken bones in his thumb. So, I told him adversity builds character, but I told him, I said, when'd you hurt it, buddy? He said, I think Friday. I was like, buddy, you practiced Monday and Tuesday. And he was like, yeah, it hurt. I was like, dude, you're going to be just fine. Don't worry. So I was really proud of him. I said, buddy, look, if you get hurt, you got to tell mom or you got to tell dad. And he told his mom. And when, got an x-ray, was devastated, but it's part of sports and part of learning what it takes.
I think it's funny that Brian Robeson, I talked to him last week. He's coaching, I think, a 9U or 10U football team. You guys might square off. That would be a little fun.
It's the best, honestly. It is honestly some of the most fun.
Houston, I got to ask you, big news coming out of baseball in the offseason for the University of Texas.
Oh, yeah. Great news.
Hiring of Jim Schlossnagle. What do you think about that? And as a former player, national champ at Texas, what do you think about Schloss's addition to Texas and all of that?
Well, I think he's a proven winner. I think, and that's what the University of Texas baseball program is about. We're the winningest program in baseball as far as College World Series appearances. Look, sometimes change has to happen. I thought Coach Pierce did a great job the time he was here, making it to 3 World Series. And but that's part of the sport, right? And the way Coach Schloss has coached at TCU, and then we all saw what he was able to do at A&M, making it to the championship game even without his best player. I think we're getting somebody who knows how to build a program, put things in the right direction, and I think it was a decision that was made, and I support it, and I support Coach Schloss, and I think he's going to bring a lot of how do I say, just he knows how to build that program, and with NIL and with everything that's going on, we need somebody that's got that track record. And our team last year, it was a down season, but they fought hard. They fought hard all the way to the end, and gave us hope even at the end, sweeping Kansas and then going into the Big 12 tournament. Obviously not a great tournament showing, but played well in the regional. But when you get a coach that's playing in the national championship game, I think who turned a program around like A&M, I think it's a good thing for UT.
Hey, Houston, thanks for coming on the show today. I had a question for you. You were at Texas. You guys won a national championship at a time where obviously Vince Young, Texas won a national championship in football. TJ Ford came through and took Texas to the Final Four in basketball. And a lot of fans on these chats talk about that all the time being the best time maybe in the history of Texas athletics as a whole. What was it like being one of those guys? Well, I'll call you BMOC. I don't know if you want that label on you, but being one of the best players, best athletes at Texas during one of those dominant times.
Well, hey, look, I'll be honest. The baseball team, we after we won that national championship, we acted like we were the big man on campus until the football team showed up. You know what I mean? So everybody knew football was running the roost. And honestly, my favorite thing about it was we all pulled for each other. We were all so close as athletes. And I think winners recognize other winners. I think great players individually recognize other great players. But, I mean, the swimming and diving team had like 19 gold medals. Brendan Hansen, Ian Crocker, Aaron Pearsall. The women's side, 2 girls soccer, Kelly Freeman. I mean, we had champions and all over in every sport, and it motivates you. I think that's the thing that I was most appreciative of was we would look over there, see somebody else doing that. We all went to each other's games, and But the football team does lead the parade. And I think that's a beautiful thing. It's been that way the entire time, and we all respected that. I don't think anybody had any misgivings about that. And more importantly, I think we wanted that to be the case. We were like, the better they are, the better it is for our school. The better they are, the better it is for all of us in recruiting and the aura, aura as in my word, not the word the kids use these days, but the beauty and the tradition of Texas just gets stronger and richer. And with, we came in with Major Applewhite, Chris Sims, Major Applewhite, and then Vince Young came along right after. So we were my class was stuck in the middle of three phenomenal quarterbacks who delivered for the university. And then obviously VY, what he was able to do, deliver the national championship. I was at the 04 game against Michigan. I was at the 05 game against USC. And I just remember my dad being like just touched, like so excited that they had won.
You mentioned that your dad, the former Longhorn quarterback, won a national championship. Houston, I had another question for you. You played for a great coach in Augie Garrido.
Oh, yeah.
You have somebody asked in the chat, you have any special Augie Garrido stories that you can actually share publicly, by the way? You have any of those?
Yeah. Oh, I got a bunch. Most of them you can share. But Coach Garrido he was the perfect coach for someone like me. He saw my work ethic. He saw my heart. He saw my wanting to just play through any kind of pain, and he believed in that. And that's probably the first story I'd tell is just people, he was all about winning, but he was actually more all about the process. He was all about, did you do your best today? That's really all he cared about. Did you do your best today? Did you give the team your all? Are you a team player? And if you're not playing, are you paying attention to the game? If you are playing, are you running it out hard to first? He'd take guys out of the game just for not running out hard to first. And he saw winning as a process. He didn't see winning as winning today or making it to the national championship. We have to set goals. And that is my favorite story of Coach Garrido ever. It's not even close. Is the national championship game 02. And I grew up with this. I've told this story before, but I grew up knowing what he said as a reality. I knew it from my dad's life. And my dad always used to say, Bud, we're always appreciative for the opportunities the university has given us. And winning that national championship game or winning the national championship changed our lives forever, but we wouldn't have it without the opportunities the university gave us. And Augie walks into that locker room for South Carolina and, goes, look, guys, there's a lot of things I could say. There's a lot of things you probably heard before. There's a lot of things you expect to hear in this moment. You've prepared. You've worked hard. You've earned this. Stay in the moment and just remember this, that the world treats winners different than it treats losers. And he walked out. And there was like a quiet silence, and I don't mean like silence, I mean like a quiet, like stillness, silence but it was like we were all on the same page. It was like he lit us up in the most perfect way for that team, because that was a team full of winners and full of guys that really did understand and bought into the process. And Justin Simmons goes out, gets bases loaded, nobody out the first inning. And, I'm like, man, we're going to be treated terribly after this game. And then he gets us out of it, and our hitters respond with 3 runs, and then the rest was history. But Augie uniquely understood his team and his players, and he was one of those coaches that could tell you what you needed to hear in the moment. And then another funny story I could tell about Augie, just to be quick, was I was a freshman and in college, my fall semester, and I was feisty. And, back in those days, I went to college and thought maybe I should get in a fight. I thought that would be a bright idea. I'd never really been in one. So I was like, oh, let's go to college and this is what you're here for. So anyway, a fight happened. We went and found one like idiots. And like I tell my sons, don't ever do this. Anyway, I did not win the fight. It was not a glorious day for me on that one. And I had a big old black eye, and we're walking through practice, and Coach Garrido was like, "Hey, everybody, look, Street likes to try to break their fist with his face. It's impressive, but he's still here, so we know he's tough." So he also had a way of, look, he acknowledged who we were, but he also kept it real and didn't, he didn't tear me up for that. He was like, "Can you play? Yeah. All right. Don't get in a fight. Doesn't look like you're very good at it." And you ended up loving him for such brutal honesty and truth. And the teams that bought into his wisdom always won. The teams that bought into his wisdom always won. The teams that found this philosophical idea of the process to be too much, well, those teams never really won.
Hey, Houston, I have one more question for you. You were, whether people call it ice water in the veins, handling a pressure situation, you were one of the better guys that's come through Texas at this. You also played your sport at the highest level. Were an all-star. Can you see that in other players? Is that easily seen when you see some young athletes nowadays, even if they're young on a youth league field? Can you see, is it easy to see what you had, or is it very difficult to find as somebody who really had the ice water in his veins in pressure situations?
I appreciate that. I think it's earned, actually. I think I tell my youngest kids, I say confidence and belief are skills. It's not something, I don't believe you're born with it, and I can prove it to you. Give me the most confident 10-year-old little kid in the world. Let me scream at him for 3 weeks, and I'll drain him of all his confidence, all of his belief, everything. It's a skill, and it's a skill that's built first from your parents or the people you surround yourself with or your coaches, and then you have to be put in those situations and succeed. My dad actually told the best version of that story to answer your question, because I think it's a brilliant question. I think it's the question, right? Like who? My dad used to call it it. But he's like, people with it do and can recognize it in others. But he used to say, "What is it? Like what is it? And can you lose it?" And then he used to talk about the Randy Peschel pass. He would say, "Bud, when I think about it, sometimes everybody says I have it. James Street, 20-0 as a quarterback, never lost a game he started, won a national title." I said, "Bud, I roll left, I throw that pass, and he drops it. I'm the same guy. I threw the same pass, called the same play, said the same thing in the huddle, threw the same pass to the same spot. He drops it, and now they say, 'Oh man, James Street, man, he was good. He just got close, And I think, to answer your question, I think some people are more naturally predisposed for it. But parents, you play a big part in that. If you're listening, if there's a chance to say something positive, say it. If there's a chance to say something negative, avoid it. Look for the silver lining in the game. Look for the silver lining in their attitude and their performance overall. Maybe they didn't do anything whatsoever at all. My parents were always phenomenal at giving me that confidence and that belief. And I say they put it out in me, and then you can get it out of me. And yeah, I mean, Omar Quintanilla, my moment is the Rice game. Ball hit down the third base line. Omar Quintanilla makes almost an impossible backhand play. Coach Wayne Graham was a man of honor and a good competitor, ducks to give us a chance to throw the ball home. He throws the ball home. We make the tag play. And if it wasn't for that play in that moment, I blow the save, and then they don't say, well, he had 4 College World Series saves. So I think you have to get a little lucky too, and that reinforces your belief. But yes, you can see fear in other people's eyes, and I think that's the biggest thing to answer your question. What you can see is someone who's playing with a a controlled, reckless abandon, someone who truly has no fear of failure, and therefore they're willing to leave it all on the line. And because they know if they fail, they're going to be right back there tomorrow working to find another opportunity. And my dad always said, they can't beat you, buddy, if you never quit. Whatever game you're playing, if you just keep playing, you're going to eventually find the end zone. You're gonna win. And Augie Garrido defined it so perfectly one day in a different championship setting where he said, guys, look, I don't want y'all to worry about this too much. Tomorrow, if we win, I'll be in Hawaii. And if we lose, I'll be in Hawaii. So, and honestly, that it factor, a lot of it does come from, when I always look to the highest athletes, Michael Jordan. That's it, right? That's the definition of it. Michael Phelps, Simone Biles in this previous Olympics. When you look at an athlete that you're like, okay, I think they have it maybe more than I got it, right? Like what? And so then you try to learn. You try to learn from that athlete, from that person, and what is your process? What is your mental process? And I was watching the series receiver, and just George Kittle, his process before a game really impressed me. So I think you have to be born with it, but you have to develop it, and then you have to continue to maintain it. And at the end of the day, I always say confidence and belief are skills. Skills you're either building up or you're tearing down.
Houston, that's just a tremendous answer. I think everybody that is listening, young or old, could say those are wise words, buddy. Thank you so much for joining us. Blake, if you could do us one more favor and put that photo up one more time, and I'm going to say hook 'em. Hook 'em, buddy. Okay. Take care of yourself, man. Thanks for joining.
Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate being on.
All right. Have a good one, bud. 16 days away from college football season, Huston Street. What an answer. What an answer, Jerry and Blake.
I first time I've ever talked to Houston. I've always wanted to ask him that question. I've asked TJ Ford. People know I've known TJ for years and years, but I try to ask that question of some of those guys. And, because TJ trains, he trains a lot of the best basketball kids in the Houston area. They're in his gym all the time. And I've asked him before, can you see it? What age can you see what you had in somebody? It doesn't mean they're going to be as good a player as you, because TJ was a freak athlete, right? Houston threw and had a 90-mile-an-hour slider. But can you see it in somebody else? And I always think their answers are the best, or kind of their process and kind of what happened in their lives to kind of help build that. Like TJ Ford's dad did an unbelievable job with him growing up. Unbelievable. And his dad works in the gym with him every day in Missouri City. That was just an awesome answer.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. Could have listened to him tell some of those stories all day too.
Hey, by the way, Houston can come on anytime he wants. If he wants to take my spot for an hour, just let me know.
Oh man. All right, guys. Well, and we got a lot of people asking if we're going to cut the interview up and post it. Yes, I will do that today. So head on over to the On Texas Football Twitter page, and we'll have just the interview there. All right. Before we move on, Jerry, well, it's your time to shine now.
Look, guys, I've got to get back on the practice field. Luckily, it's indoor to start the day here at Euless Trinity. So I'm leaving you with the beard and balls bundle, guys. Is there any better way to leave the show? Fellas, do you want your grooming routine to be a one-and-done deal? Do you want to be KD? Well, they're using the same trimmer for your face and private parts are now over, thanks to our friends at Manscaped. They've come up with the ultimate package to keep your hairs trimmed from 12 to 6. Introducing the Beard and Balls Bundle featuring the Lawnmower 5.0 and the Beard Hedger, a trimmer for the moneymaker, and another for the boys downstairs. Get 20% off plus free shipping with code ONTEXAS, all caps, at Manscaped. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code ONTEXAS at manscaped.com. For the premium grooming experience, trust Manscaped. Look, first up, it's your ball's new best friend, the Lawnmower 5.0. That's all I need to say. 16 days from the start of the season. Don't go into DKR and be all chafed up, man. Handle your business.
There you go.
That's great. Great stuff. And while we're at it, I also need to tell folks.
I got to get going. I got to get back on the practice field. Thank you very much, guys. Tomorrow morning, we'll go over more recruiting stuff. I got 3 school stops today. By the way, I'm speaking to the Texas X's event at Bobby. You can give some information on that tonight.
I'll take care of that. I'll take care of it, Jared.
Anybody, I hope to see you guys there.
See you, Jared.
Right.
Toa Katoa, the big offensive lineman from Euless Trinity, Jerry will be going and seeing. Blake, you need to tell folks about HelloFresh.
Factor. You're good. Hey, guys, fall is around the corner, but for now, we're in the middle of a sweltering summer. The days are long. The days are hot. You need that extra boost. Well, get that boost and fuel up for those days with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Their fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. If you've been on the fence about eating better and making healthier lifestyle choices, then make today the day that you kickstart a new healthy routine. Over the past month or so, I've been really trying to take that head on. I've been trying to eat better so I can feel better. Factor has helped me do just that, and I promise they can help you too. You can choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize protein intake, avoid meat, or just simply eat well balanced. And with 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you're always going to have new flavors to explore and to enjoy. So head on over to factormeals.com/Texas50. Use promo code Texas50. They're going to give you 50% off your first box plus 20% off next month. That's code Texas50 at factormeals.com/Texas50. Like I said, 50% off that first box, 20% off next month while your subscription is active. You can't beat that. Be sure to check them out. Factor Meals.
Jerry said, wanted me to mention this to folks, and I'll also give you a couple other dates. Jerry is speaking to the Fort Worth, Texas X's tonight as a preseason kickoff. It's the X's preseason kickoff party. It's at Angelo's Barbecue in Fort Worth. All are welcome. I think it's like 10 or 15 bucks at the door in Fort Worth from 6 to 8 p.m. tonight. Jerry will be there hanging out. A bunch of Texas X's will be there as well. Again, Angelo's Barbecue from 6 to 8. Also, I'll be up in Dallas on next week, the 22nd at 5:30 for the Dallas Texas X's kickoff party. Excited about meeting you guys up there and seeing you again. I was there a year ago with Doug Rice and those guys. Good stuff. We always do. We did their golf tournament pre-OU game. That was an awesome environment as well. The Dallas Texas X is very active in that regard. And then down on August 28th, Jerry and I will be down where we grew up just about in Webster, Texas at Little Woodrow's on the 28th in participation with Yingling Flight, which is going to be sponsoring our post-game show. They're sponsoring a get-together for anybody and everybody that wants to come out. Little Woodrow's in Webster on Thursday, August 28th. Please join us there. Or excuse me, I think it's 29th, actually. Thursday, August 29th. Please join us if you would. I think that's going to go from 6 to 8 as well. That will actually be a simulcast live stream here on Texas Football as well.
All right, Bobby, we got a lot of questions, a lot of super chats. So we're going to start with the supers. Edmund Lee. Thank you, Edmund. He says, good morning, Coffee and Football. Good morning to the On Texas Football team in Huston Street from New Braunfels. Black coffee and sausage, egg taquito this morning. Remember the 1969 UT versus Arkansas game, quarterback James Street in a great backfield. Hook 'em horns.
Thanks, Edmund, for the super chat. I loved Huston Street's description of how his dad talked to him about that pass play to Randy Peschel. It shows you that we all have to rely on other people at times in our lives. I mean, Huston Street, he's right. Huston Street makes that same pass and it goes off the fingertips, or Randy Peschel doesn't make it because he's getting climbed on by an Arkansas defensive back. James Street's not what people see of James Street, maybe some ways, right? At least not historically. We all rely on other people. He mentioned Omar Quintanilla in the College World Series, the play at third base, where Quintanilla threw the runner out at home. You know, we all rely on others to make, you know, to rise up as well. It's not the greatest plays aren't just one person rising up. It's everybody rising up together. I think back to Vince Young's run. You go back and watch Justin Blaylock on that play. He literally obliterates the safety blitz by doing what you know, he decleated a blitzer and just totally mowed him down. And Vince had the entire right side open and made one move and going. So it's good stuff. Good stuff. Thanks, Edmund, for the super chat, by the way.
All right, our next one comes from UT Boy. Thank you for the super chat. As always, UT Boy, and he says, Jerry Hamilton, this is for you. Of course, Jerry's gone, but not Bobby, not Silas. This is when you're talking about Silas Bolden. He's hook 'em. Well, hook 'em back to you, UT Boy. We appreciate it as always. And then we have one here from Maddie M. Thank you, Maddie. And they say, good morning, guys. No question, just new to the chat, but an OTF OG and Texas One Fun member. Support your show and horns, everyone. Thank you guys for all that you do. Hook 'em.
Thanks, Maddie M. We appreciate it. I wrote a piece yesterday on Texas Football about how on TexasFootball.com about how I like how the community has come together. And I really do. I love that we've got a place where we can just talk Longhorn football. It doesn't have to be negative, positive, whatever. It's just a safe place to go talk and have fun about the Longhorns, whether it's via chat right now on the video series or on the message boards as well. We appreciate you guys, and we're going to keep building it. I've got some news coming up. I guess I can go ahead and say this now. And it's a good time to do so. Brian Robeson, the former Longhorn, I mentioned that he's coaching Little League this year, so he's not going to be doing a lot of stuff for LHN because LHN doesn't exist anymore. He's going to be working with us here at On Texas Football a couple times a week. We're going to try to get him in to do one of our regular shows during the week, and he's also going to be on the post-game show with us. Myself and Rod Babers will be doing the post game with Brian Robeson when Brian doesn't have a Little League football game that he has to coach. So he's going to be easier in the night games and mid-afternoon games. The early 11 a.m. games may be tough for him, but excited to have Brian aboard, and we'll get him on before that as well. So we're going to keep trying to add value to you guys, to bring guys here that I think also represent the Horns really well and what it all means to be a Texas Longhorn.
Bobby, our next one here is from Larry, and Larry says, thanks for the shout out yesterday to former Rotan Yellowhammer Freddie Acorn. Hope Coach Shipley and Rod like that. Thanks for all you do. I always forget that Shipley was at Rotan.
You know, a lot of the best coaches start off in really, really small schools and then work their way up. Because and I talked to Brian Irwin about this, who does lunch with the coach with us during the season. Mm-hmm. You know, you start at a small school as a head coach, you get a lot thrown on you. You know what I mean, Blake? You have to be the athletic director, you have to be the offense coordinator, the defensive coordinator, all of that stuff. And I'm excited by that. Whenever a young coach gets those early starts and has success, they build their way up. Art Briles did the same thing. As well as Jeff Traylor. You know, you think about his time across the state. All those good coaches, they start small because they get a lot on them early and prove they can handle it and develop systems over time.
Yeah, definitely. All right. This next one here from Tim Deckler. Thank you, Tim, for the super chat. He says, with all the talent in the safety room, wouldn't you do everything to keep Taff off the field since you know he's going to be a major liability? Well, we kind of answered this yesterday, but take it away, Bobby.
Yeah, I'm not convinced he's this major liability, guys. I mean, he had 3 interceptions last year. He had 48 tackles. He was better than Keaton Crawford by far. So there's a little bit of know-how in safety. You know, you may run 4-6, but if you play 4-5-5 or 4-5, that's better than the 4-4 guy that plays 4-7. So would you rather Keaton Crawford been back there against Kansas State in making that interception? No. I mean, I'm not digging on Keaton Crawford because he's a tremendous special teams guy, but don't disparage guys who are out there making plays. He's not perfect. I will say that. He's likely not an NFL player, but that doesn't mean he can't be a good player and a contributor to the University of Texas.
Yeah, definitely. All right. The next one is from Rodrigo, and Rodrigo asks, does Trey Wisner have the speed to get away from defenses?
Yes. Yeah. I don't think he has Jaden Blue speed, but Trey Wisner has a quickness to him and an acceleration button that allows him to do that. He's not Jaden Blue fast. I think he's quicker than Jaden Blue, though. That's the slight difference between those two. Like I would call Trey Wisner a slasher, where I call Jaden Blue is more of a lane runner, where if he gets a hole, he can just pound through it or just run through it fast. That's the difference between those two. Both have really good speed. Blue has, I think, special speed.
Let's stay on running backs for a little bit because we do have quite a few questions regarding that situation. WTP Sports Dudes asks, do you think Sark will put kid gloves on the running backs?
I think he's trying to. We were told even during Saturday's scrimmage he did it a little different. He didn't run Wisner and Blue inside. He left that to Darian Gillette, Jarrett Gibson, and Christian Clark during Saturday's scrimmage. So he's already, I'm not saying he would have necessarily done that anyways, given that those two guys are probably more outside runners as it is. But I do think he's being judicious, I guess is the best way to put it.
And then Miguel says, in my opinion, Ryan Niblett would be great in a Keelan Robinson role. What are your thoughts on that?
I can see that. Absolutely. One of the things that is underrated about Keelan Robinson, I'm just going to put this out there. He's a hard-nosed football player. And I'm not saying Ryan Niblett isn't. So don't get me wrong. But for Keelan Robinson's size, and no, he wasn't an inside runner or a great instinctive running back, but he ran down on special teams like a madman. He had no problem with contact, right? He made a bunch of second effort plays. I think back to his kick return against the University of Houston. He gets hit at like the 22, but sets Texas up and Malik Murphy up when he came into the game at like the 45 or 40-yard line, so that it was a shorter drive for Malik Murphy in his time in the game there. Ended up winning off that drive. So my point being that I think Ryan Niblett could be a replacement. I thought going into the season, Trey Wisner would fill that role. Now you need a Niblett or somebody like that to be an additional guy. Of course, if you missed the news, CJ Vogel reported on Tuesday night that during Tuesday's practice, Niblett moved to running back, as did Juan Davis at times. So that's a kind of an inside-outside tandem right there.
Bobby, can you let people know about Mint Mobile if you're ready to do so?
Sure thing. Friends don't let friends overpay for wireless. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you and your squad with premium wireless plans starting at just $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts. With a kid going away to college, it's something my family took advantage of. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/on-Texas. That's mintmobile.com/on-Texas. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/on-Texas. $45 a month, $45 upfront payment required. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speeds slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Good extra plan there for kids going away to school for me and my family.
Man, it is that time of the year.
Yes. I'm getting ready. Me and my wife are getting ready to be empty nesters, Blake. That's a big, I mean, my wife, when I say empty nesters, they're going away to college. My wife literally broke down in the grocery store the other day.
Uh-oh.
Because she didn't buy something for school lunches that she normally bought for my son for like 12 years.
Oh, no.
And she just like literally, we're entering that stage of life, man.
That's just there I was this morning. I had to get up early, Bobby. And, my oldest son, he trying to eat very healthy to gain all this weight for football. And I was cooking chicken Alfredo at 5:45 this morning so he could have it for lunch. And I'm complaining. She's breaking down. Totally opposite ends there. Oh, man. All right, we got a couple more super chats. Jerry's Jack Link says, kind of random, but I'm curious. When these kids have surgeries, who pays for it? Is that included in a scholarship?
Yes. So you can have both parts of it. But typically the university pays for it.
And then we have a super chat here from Rhett. Thank you, Rhett. He says, Bobby, do you think that Michigan and Ohio State have an advantage in defensive line recruiting geographically? They have the Midwest and aren't competing with 16 to 20 teams in the South. It's a good point.
I would say yes, but look, let's talk about Ohio State's defensive line. Okay. They've got one from Hawaii. They've got one from Hawaii. The Bosa's are from South Florida. And then you look at Michigan, and they do have one guy from the Midwest. Kenneth Grant's from the Midwest, but Mason Graham, the highly ranked guy, is from California. So I do think they have less competition per se in the Midwest overall for defensive linemen. I don't think they have nearly as many, if you draw from Texas all the way east into Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, that area. But I can understand where you're saying there's less competition for the guys that are there and do want to stay close to home than there is in the deep South or in Texas. Advantage, I don't know, because they don't have the sheer numbers, but there's something to be said about what you're getting at there. Something to be said.
And then Joe Z says, Bobby, what are you looking to hear about practice today? Also, does Stark speak or the players?
So first of all, there is not media availability for practice. There is media availability post-practice. And we are expected to get players post-practice, is my understanding. So not Sark. Couple things for practice today. Certainly the running back position. Is Darian Gillette still working at running back alongside working at linebacker, as well as Juan Davis and Ryan Niblett? Do they try someone new at running back today? Not sure about that. So that's one of the things. The other thing I think that has to be we have to be getting to a place of clarity is the receiver position. I went over this early. Right now, Silas Bolden is sounding like the best receiver on the team. Not Jonte, not Isaiah Bond, not DeAndre Moore. Silas Bolden's been probably the most consistent playmaker. I'll put it that way. Doesn't mean the other guys aren't playmakers and aren't doing well. Not what I'm getting at. So he's kind of standing above And then you have these other guys that have specific skill sets that we have to find out exactly where they fit and how Sark wants to use them. This scrimmage coming up for the receiver position is going to be important. Matthew Golden did not have, for example, a ideal scrimmage last Saturday, yet had really good work the first 2 weeks in camp. And so how does that all play together when you know Sark cares about what you do on the field? It's fine to do it in practice, but when it's time to perform, he needs you to perform, And so this whole wide receiver thing is still the one place on the team that I think is a little bit of a conundrum. Everything else is kind of crystallizing, even with the situation in the running back room. At least we know who the top 2 running backs are, for example. I mean, they are Jaden Blue and Trey Wisner with a mix of Jarrett Gibson right now. So we know who those are. The one position where we're still like, how's he going to do this? What's he going to? And I think he's still working it out and wants to see these guys compete on Saturday. So that's what we're looking for.
All right, Bobby, we got time for just a couple more questions here. And let's take this one from Isaiah Stewart. He says, Bobby, I ask you this every year. From what you've seen, what's some of the differences between this year's team versus last year's team?
Yeah, good question. Thanks, Isaiah. I think that this year's team is younger than last year's team. There were a lot of leaders on the football field for Texas last year at playmaking positions. So Jordan Whittington, Xavier Worthy. You wouldn't necessarily see Worthy as a leader, but he was because of the way he practiced. JT Sanders, leader. Christian Jones, leader. Jalen Ford, leader. Byron Murphy, Tavondre Sweat. That is the thing that I look at. I see the strength of this team right now really in the sophomore class. Yes, there's some juniors and seniors even that are going to be good, but the strength is more the Anthony Hill, Derek Williams, Manny Muhammad, Arch Manning, was Cedric Baxter. Those guys, I feel like that's the biggest difference. I think that Texas, I wish Texas would be able to have the same offensive line next year, So I'm of the opinion that it's a little bit younger, a little less, not that there's less leaders, but the leaders are less proven and have to step into that role in a different way. So that's probably my biggest difference right now. I want to see, I don't know that the guys that are going to need to step up are necessarily as proven as the guys that stepped up last year.
Makes sense. Okay, Bobby, one last time. Will you let people know about Austin Underground?
Yeah, absolutely. Rick Vavro is a good friend of the program. We appreciate him very much. I was talking to him about what we're doing for tailgates the other day. Since 2004, Austin Underground has specialized in difficult underground commercial installations. The team's engineering background gives Austin Underground the ability to perform work other firms often consider too risky. Rick Vavro and his team offer an end-to-end client experience, including seamless communication, budgeting, staffing, and top-notch trade partners. And most importantly, they produce solid quality work each and every time. That's Austin Underground, your choice for difficult underground commercial installations.
Well, let's take one or two more questions before we get out of here. And this one from Morse. Regarding the linebackers, there's no questioning the physical attributes of Hill and Benda. But what about their football IQ?
I think that Hill is got an innate football IQ. He just does. That's what disruptors tend to have. Now, is he perfect in that regard? And does he know all of his assignments? No, but his football IQ is off the charts. I mean, that's the thing about disruptors. Their football IQ is generally off the charts. And so doesn't mean he's going to fill every hole right. That's not what he's about. Benda, on the other hand, I don't know that he had a extremely high football IQ in his first 3 years at Texas. So I think this is a good part about development, right? Over time, including late last year, he got better. And I'm not so sure that with Benda, it hasn't been like he gave up the touchdown reception in the win in the loss to OU, right? I'm not so sure that for his development, ultimately, that wasn't a good thing for his own personal development, right? Because now he stepped up and took responsibility for that. He didn't sweep it under the rug or anything like that. And he's been committed to it. And I think that his football IQ is improving. It's more, instead of football IQ, though, for him, I would call it football acumen. So slight difference. IQ is innate, right? A lot. Acumen is something more learned. And I think that's where Benda is stepped up. He's a fifth-year senior. I think he's going to be a good player for Texas this year. And look, he's not a bad I mean, people say, oh, well, you got to take him off and put Maurice Blackwell in for pass rush. No, you don't. I mean, David Benda is a good pass rusher. He's got some acceleration. He made a great sack last year against Jalen Milroe.
And our last question for today, Bobby, comes from Joe McWaters Preaches Sometimes. Any news on Derek Williams?
Hadn't heard any. I hope this isn't a trick question, but I had not heard anything different other than he's continuing to be one of the key members of this football team. So him, Michael Taft, as well as Andrew Makuba are your three really high-end safeties right now. They're trying to get Jelani McDonald to step into that role as well. By the way, Jelani apparently had a good scrimmage on Saturday. But again, this coming weekend, that'll be one of the spots that they are looking at. Hey, are you really the fourth safety, Jelani McDonald? So that's good to watch.
All right, Bobby. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football, presented by Rick Favreau and Austin Underground. We want to thank them, along with Factor, Manscaped, and Mint Mobile, for sponsoring today's show. We got to give a special thanks to Huston Street. What an awesome guest. I mean, and judging by the chat, everybody loved it. Just some great stories and a lot of wisdom that he gave upon it and just shared with us. So very cool interview. Anything people need to be on the lookout for? Obviously, as you said earlier, Texas takes the field about 2:45. Media availability afterward. What's the plan today for On Texas Football?
We've got several different things. Football Theories coming up. They've got the winning drive this afternoon. Don't forget, CJ Vogel went down to San Antonio yesterday to visit with Michael Terry. CJ's got a report on Texas Football. He also will be talking about it on the winning drive this afternoon. So I think that starts at 3:00 today with him, Rod Babers, and Coach Bob Shipley. And then we also have Football Theory as well today. May have some other things in the hopper. I want to say this is a catch from Michael Terry yesterday in San Antonio that CJ was at. I want to say this. We mentioned James Street, David Thomas, Jermichael Finley, Kenny Vaccaro. I forgot two that were kind of more my era, Blake.
Who's that?
That ended up playing in the NFL, and both were safeties. Lance Gunn out of North Shore High School in Houston, as well as Chris Carter out of John Tyler out in East Texas. Both played in the NFL after playing safety at the University of Texas.
Hey, and I was going to tell you too, Bobby, before we get out of here, we were talking about the photo, and if it's the most iconic photo. Someone did have a good suggestion. Sandman23 said, what about the Nixon photo? I think either one of those, kind of a 1A, 1B type deal.
Yeah, maybe. I just think that I like when the gladiators are in the arena.
There you go.
Idea of why the street picture looks the best.
Yeah.
I mean, you see what I'm saying? It's like that's truly the gladiators are in the arena as opposed to the video or the locker room. Just a personal opinion.
Well, we will be back same time, same place tomorrow. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell so you're notified anytime that we go live or post a video. You don't want to miss any content whatsoever. And then head on over to ontexasfootball.com. Join in on the discussion. Lots of great stuff going on over there. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.
Hook up.